I'm Arrie Boyd, and this is my presentation on the Fundamentalist Church of the Latter-day Saints. So my introduction is going to be brief. First off, I wanted to say how I felt that this church, this community, this religious sect is one of the most important or one of the most major groups you could research that focuses on only mainly talking to themselves. So they are very big on in groups. They only interact with themselves. So a quick introduction is it was founded, this fundamentalist church of Latter-day Saints was founded in 1929 by Lyron Woodley because polygamy was outlawed in 1890 and him and his father wanted to continue to practice it. So they created this church. The church was then taken over by Rulon Jeffs, that is Warren Jeffs' father, and he gave them freedom. He gave them everything that they could ask for to make them happy and content with their lives, while they were also trying to make their lives good and able to go to heaven. Once Rulon Jeffs died, with what was thought to be about 60 wives and over 60 children, Warren Steve Jeffs, born December 3rd, 1955, took over and started to change the whole dynamic of this relationship. Currently, Warren Jeffs is sentenced to 20 years plus life, convicted of rape, illegal marriages, polygamy, child sexual assault, and etc. The illegal marriages is him marrying off young women to older men because he could. He did it because he could. So academically, first I asked myself, who is Warren Jeffs? And if you ask yourself who is Warren Jeffs, you got to ask yourself, what is the Fundamentalist Church of the Latter-day Saints? And why are they allowing Warren Jeffs to do what he did to them? So this is why I'm doing this research, to fully understand who Warren Jeffs is, what the Fundamentalist Church of the Latter-day Saints is, and why they are allowing this unfair, unjust treatment to go on. So not only did they receive unfair, unjust treatment, Warren Jeffs turned this leadership into a dictatorship, kicking out people who he felt threatened by, who he felt was not supposed to be a part of this community. He took his leadership, he took his power, and he ran with it, and it made him crazy. It's a man from Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, their documentary on Netflix, named Lloyd. Lloyd, he was a headstrong man with a big company, a nice company. Warren Jeffs told him that he should hand over his company to give himself back to the Lord, because he felt that him and running this company was making him lose sight of his salvation. So Warren Jeffs tried to get Lloyd to hand over his company, and Lloyd said no. Warren Jeffs did this because he made every man that owned the company hand over their own companies, because he said that was able to allow them to get back their sight of their salvation, get back on the track of salvation, even though he was taking these companies and profiting big off of them, because he make the boys work for free, saying that chores get them closer to the Lord. He forced the congregation into doing exactly what he wanted to. Like I said, it was a dictatorship. It was no more of having freedom. Women said that it is known in the documentary that with Rulon, at least they had freedom. At least they were happy. And once Warren came along, everything changed. In the documentary, Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey, it explained how Warren Jeffs manipulated them and abused his power. And it also explains how he became powerful and his downfall. And as earlier spoken about, the downfall was all the sexual assault, all the illegal marriages, the polygamy, all the hate, the horrible conditions these people were living in. So it's a woman named Rebecca Jessup. Rebecca Jessup was 18 years old at the time that she was told that she was going to have to marry Rulon. She was told because at this time, Rulon Jeffs, the man over the congregation at this time, would shake the women's hands, and if he gave them a special squeeze, that means that he would marry them instead of marrying them off to someone else. Fathers allowed their daughters to get married because they were taught that the more women that you are married to, the higher you are in the hierarchy, closer to the Lord. And they could only get married to people that they were assigned. Basically, they were owned by these people. It was a total dictatorship. And she married Rulon, and she was happy because she had so many sister wives, and it was fun to her. And one night when she was lined up to give Rulon a kiss goodnight, he told her to stay with him because he wanted to have maritals. And she did not know what maritals was because it was never taught. Warren Jeffs convinced everyone to take that out of the curriculum so that he could manipulate them and let them know what they wanted to know. And further on in this presentation, I'm going to explain how this affects the age group dynamics, because younger children are young and impressionable, but we'll get into that further on. So in the documentary, he had maritals with her, and she hated it, and she knew that she wanted to get away from that moment on. And once Rulon died, she thought she would be safe, but Warren Jeffs married her off to someone else, and she ran away. That was her last straw. This is a chart, and I'm going to briefly talk about this. This chart is my quantitative analysis of the support that Jeffs received from this community. As you can see, majority of it is red. So in the green, about 16.9% of people, they agree with, they think that Jeffs is a good person. And I'm going to say that a lot of the people are kids. It is so many kids in this community because men have about 20 wives, and with these 20 wives, they're having about 70 kids, but amongst the 20. So it's a lot of kids, and these young children are very impressionable because of their age group. They are very impressionable. Warren Jeffs changed the curriculum in school so they only know what he want them to know. That's why he kicked out so many guys, so many young men called the Lost Boys, because he knew that he could not impression them. He knew they were of the age that they weren't no longer impressionable, so he kicked them out. And it's known that he have a group of boys that he favored the most, but he did not kick these group of boys out because he knew that they would do exactly what he said. But he kicked out the other boys because they weren't impressionable. So this in communication diversity, I said interpersonal communication, as spoke earlier, they're in group versus out group. They will not speak to the out group, and the women will not speak at all. For the sake of the presentation, I'm going to say that even though I hated that, women in this community are meant to be seen and not heard. They're meant to stand in a woman's place. So the age group in this communication, as just spoken about, they're very impressionable. They all the kids, so many kids, they play with each other. They will not play with anybody else. But Warren Jeffs know that they're at an age where they need their parents. So if you kick them out, if you threaten to kick these kids out, if you threaten that if these kids don't do this, then they're going to kick the parents out, then he know that he can have them wrapped around his finger. I said the dynamics of gendered language is a part of this too, because men say things that women won't say, and women say things that men won't say. Warren Jeffs was very controlling. He fell into the stereotype of being controlling. These are quotes that you can read from it to keep up on time. I'm not going to read everything, but some of the quotes I said are dynamics of gender language. Warren Jeffs changing the dress code of the women and it bothering them. It will bother anybody, but small things that he did that will bother the women would not bother men, and vice versa. The small things that men would say would bother what women wouldn't say. So also, I just wanted to explain in closing how this affected me, how learning about this made me understand them more, understand why they stayed, because it was all about their salvation. He did manipulate them, but he manipulated them with the thought of their salvation being at risk. This was important to teach because nobody knew what was going on before this documentary. I thought Mormons or Latter-day Saints was all one group. I did not know this was a difference. I did not know that it meant much of a difference, but it's a major difference. And with the little time left, I could explain the difference is this group is more of a dictatorship. They are very strict. And I hope that this taught you as much as it taught me. It was very informative, and I hope it was informative to you as well.